After 12, speaking of the European Union, Maggie Filipova-Rivers is a mother of two British children. She also has a British husband, and she has lived here herself for 19 years. She joins me on the line now because despite being a councillor in your hometown, Maggie, and as I mentioned, being both married to a British man and the mother of two British children, you have just been denied settled status by the Home Office. My commiserations. Do we know why?
Well, thank you, James. I'm so thrilled to be able to join you and to actually talk about this in some detail.
You're very welcome.
There has been somewhat of a kind of explosion of interest in my personal case. And I have to say, I didn't take the decision to speak out lightly. I was aware that I would face some very negative comments, which I have. But
give us an example, because people, I mean, not everyone has access to an inbox like mine. So I imagine for ordinary people, the scale of the vitriol and the bile can be quite arresting. So what sort of comments have you received?
I had one saying that hopefully more to follow, bye-bye, more to follow after Brexit, etc., which is obviously very unhelpful because, you know, what I'm trying to really show is that, you know, this collateral damage actually has a face and a family, and it is really important for us to unite, be sort of on this cause, because it is the right thing to do, and it should be fairly apolitical, and it shouldn't be contentious. We should be guaranteeing the rights of those who are rightfully here.
Well, for somebody, for example, a Brexit campaigner like Daniel Hannan very explicitly promised that people would in no way have their status affected by the Brexit that he helped sell.
Yeah, and I think we have heard a lot in the media, but it hasn't actually really worked out in practice, not yet anyway. And I think with this sort of when you set up a new scheme, there is always this danger that some people will fall through the net. And I think the way that it has been designed, it is not fit for purpose, because when I went and I did put in my details, I put in my national insurance number, my documents. I had to find an Android phone because it was the only one that supported this scheme. And once I did that and I answered a set of questions in bright blue, it said, you have not lived here for, you have our checks with your benefits and tax record show that you have been here for less than 5 years. And that is where you know, this whole denied settled status came from. I think in all fairness to the system, this is just the first phase, and I probably am able to provide more information to actually get it secured. But the point is that if I, who have been here for 19 years, and if I am invisible essentially to this current scheme, then it is not fit for purpose. And I think that is the central message of it. And also, I think what we need to recognize is that, you know, this uncertainty that is created by a system which is so new, it is going to create almost invisible barriers that are not related to what legal rights we have, and we will struggle to find jobs, to find rental accommodation, because landlords and employers will be uncertain as to whether we actually should have them because of immigration status. So it's really important that we think even beyond securing settled status and what this confusion may be causing. And there has been very little effort to help people really understand the implications.
Well, now, you mentioned that. I sense I'm going to have to interrupt you. I hope you don't mind. Sorry. But no, that's quite all right. But you mentioned that. And of course, I don't want to add to people's concerns, but there is a very real chance that the whole ship will sink at the end of next month. And people won't know what their position is. There'll be people listening to this who are thinking, crikey, I wonder if maybe I'm one of the, maybe I should have done it. And the clock is ticking. I mean, it's actually terrifying.
It's terrifying because the Home Secretary came sort of again in the media saying that, you know, free movement will end on the 31st of October, and it sent myself into panic. And I thought, oh my gosh, I better apply. And this is the reason why I did apply. Gosh. Now, I think that it is now being actually she has backtracked on that.
For people who didn't follow the story, the shock of this, you might want to sit down. Turned out Priti Patel didn't know what she was talking about.
Well, exactly. And you know, I think it's you know, I'm someone
clarity and certainty.
Indeed. And I wanted to kind of remove this discourse a little bit from Brexit and just to look at it as supporting your neighbours and
Yes.
your spouses and your friends that are really a part of your community.
Why did you
And
become a local councillor, Maggie, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I think I have worked in the non-profit sector, and I trained as a development economist, and so my hope was always to help and to do something to change things. I really felt that in the community and in the current political climate, it was important that I was able to contribute to that really.
Well, so are you suggesting that you came over here, started a family, made a life with your British husband, and then decided selflessly to try to make the community in which you live a better place for everybody?
Yeah, and I
Who
think
the hell do you think you are, Maggie Filipova-Rivers? That's outrageous conduct.
Shocking, isn't it? And I think as a migrant, you always have your loyalties questioned, and I think I have done my best in order to kind of put people's minds at rest and say, look, this is my home. I care about it just as much as you do. I came here when I was 16. I was essentially still a child. So this is where my formative years have been spent. And this is why I say, surely someone who has been here since they were a child with a British husband and British children shouldn't be falling through a net.
Well, this is why we hear the echoes of Windrush and genuine fears, whether it's through malice of forethought or sheer bureaucratic incompetence, many, many more families. And I stress, and Maggie makes this point herself in other articles that I've read, that she is in quite a lucky position. She can afford legal advice, for example, and she's fully literate with computer software. And as a microeconomist, she'll be able to find her way through some of these hoops and obstacles. That will not be a description that applies equally to everybody. You've made me very late for the break, Maggie. I hope you take that as the compliment as which it is intended. And later this week we may have a look at other people, perhaps without the benefits of Maggie's articulacy. Have a look at other people who found themselves quite unexpectedly in horrible situations such as this, with particular reference perhaps to that ludicrous intervention. And these words still, even in the madness in which we're engulfed, some phrases and sentences still seem surreal. Priti Patel is Home Secretary.